Welcome back to LEGO Wars. Tonight sees the beginning of a new mini-series in the arena as we kick off LEGO Wars Champions. Here's how the format will run. We've randomly drawn 8 robots from past and present to fight out in a knockout bracket. The winner of said bracket will then be pitted against one of our 4 international champions for the right to take on one of our LEGO Wars series champs in a totally legitimate and not borrowed idea from anywhere else. Citation needed. Tonight, our bounty boss is Petunia. Petunia was the first winner of a LEGO Wars competition back when the International was part of RoboNerd and has been a stalwart of the series since day one. Alongside that success, they've gone on to finish third twice in the main series, and despite some recent wheel trouble in Series 4, they remain one of the toughest opponents in the series. Let's see who's been drawn to fight tonight. First up, it's the latest third place finisher Orby Blade starting their campaign against the veteran front hinge P1, followed by the Series 4 Grand Finalist Kraken against the dangerous new boys Harold. Then it's 2 verts in Ganymede and Hypershock facing one another before we end this group with Project Shadow against Scarlet Serpent. There's a ton of heavy hitters to kick off this tourney, so let's pass over to Sam and get on with Fight 1.
Roboteers, stand by. 3, 2, 1, activate.
Away we go then for LEGO Wars Champions, Orby Blade taking on P1-4 in its new classic Team Lotus livery. Orby Blade with that massive spinning weapon at the rear, or the front, I don't really know which way round is the front, I'll be honest, against P1.4, of course successful over the years in LEGO Wars, and of course has the very, very potentially nuisance-inducing Crabantine, or Clementine, or Crab, or whichever you want to call it really. I'll stick with Crabantine, why not? P1.4, bit of a cursory glance against the robot ranked 3rd for the main LEGO Wars competition. Later on they were only beaten by Kraken last time, and they've caused huge damage to P1-4 already. The front tyre has been caved in and ripped away, and that could be potentially devastating for P1's chances in this fight, although the weapon has stopped on Orby Blade only momentarily because it's now up to speed again, spinning up quite nicely. Can it get another big impact on the front there of P1? Yes it can, and there goes the front of the mini-bots as well. The same wheel actually on the mini-bot Crabantine has gone on theirs as well. So both robots in the P1 camp limping, but now look, Crabantine using its entire body to stop that weapon of Orby Blade spinning up. And now a good push from P1 on those 3 wheels. Good attempt again there by Crabantine to be a nuisance, but not really having the desired effect as it wants to have. P1 goes for the pit button, doesn't get it. 3rd time lucky, 4th time lucky, there we go. We got there eventually. But all that time has given Orby Blade a chance to spin its weapon up to speed. Now stopped and stilled. P1 pushes back again, slowly but meticulously pushing Orby Blade back. Orby Blade back up to speed and spinning up that weapon, bouncing off that front wedge though, doing a very good job of protecting most of the robot. Of course that front wheel coming off hasn't helped. Orby Blade up to speed again, good impact on the rear this time of P1-4 in the classic British racing green and yellow, but slowly pushed back towards the pit by Orby Blade. Oh, doesn't get it. Oh, Orby Blade almost had P1 in the pit there, doesn't quite get it down. P1 just sits in the centre of the arena. Crabantine still being a nuisance as best it can be on those 3 wheels, but Orby Blade back up to speed, but deflected again with that front wedge of P1-4. Or P1, I suppose. 10 seconds remain then. We are going to head to a decision between these two. A good, hard, fought-out, contested fight. But only one can go through to the next round of this competition.
6.
And it will be decided by our judges. Good fight, though, between the two. Very evenly matched. An interesting contrast of styles with the wedge front and the big horizontal spinner coming to blows between P1 and Orby Blade. We saw the front buckets ripped away, or one of them from Crabantine. Good push again from P1. The significant damage there was the wheel getting broken off of P1, and eventually the same wheel was broken off of Crabantine as well. But P1 stuck in the fight, kept being aggressive, and narrowly avoided escape down the pit to take it to a judge's decision.
And the winner, by unanimous decision, is Orby Blade. A stern defence from P1, but the Korean boss is continuing where it left off last year to move on. Next up, it's Kraken's first fight of 2024 against the unusual spinner Harold.
Roboteers, stand by. 3, 2, 1, activate.
A massive clash of the Titans here then. Well, a new robot in Harold and Kraken. We are intrigued to see how the Harold weapon gets on. Kraken, of course, highly, highly rated these days in LEGO Wars, finishing second overall to Tantrum in the 4th series, but damage has been sustained there on the front of Kraken. How do you deal with that weapon of Harold? It's so bizarre. Inspired heavily by UK Beetleweight Zephyrus. And, I wonder if it'll be as crazy as that in the arena, but Kraken coming down with its own weapon and pinning its weapon behind Harold's and stopping it momentarily. The Kraken team say they've worked on the chain drive for that weapon, which broke several times last series, but it was a good control bot, so managed to do extremely well here, but not as well as Harold is getting on, ripping away a second side panel of Kraken, and Kraken seems to be struggling with drive on one side. This would be a huge upset if Harold was able to get the victory here. I wonder if they've taken inspiration from Team of Blaze's robots with the red and the blue half sides. We'll have to wait and see. Kraken, meanwhile, looks like a wounded animal in that corner, doesn't it? It's not really getting away. They can't get out of that corner with the screws. And Harold here, if they can keep this up, are on for a very famous victory, although their weapon is absolutely shaking and shuddering the robot look. It's off balance. And there goes, I think, the drivetrain on Kraken on that other side, so they're down to probably just one-wheel drive now. Kraken gets the pit button activated, though, and Harold has a wheel over it. Surely not. A victory from the jaws of defeat here would be an amazing result for Kraken, considering how much on the ropes they are. But can Harold get away? They're stuck on the lip of the pit. They're trying to vibrate themselves out of the pit. But they need to be so careful that they don't bounce off the arena wall. But we're going to a simultaneous knockout, are we? They're going to count them both down. 4 seconds to go. Can either of them get out of their circumference? Harold
6.
just about doesn't make it. And it goes to a judge's decision, I think. What on earth was that? What a bizarre fight to try and break down two enormously powerful weapons in the arena today. And, the power of Harold was very obvious to see. Kraken, a very established robot, got some good attacks in themselves. But the powerhouse it is, Harold's weapon, just caused enormous damage to Kraken's drivetrain on both sides of the robot. Kraken sustaining armor damage all over the place. That moment there, though, is key, and we're left with a stalemate at the end. What a fight.
And the winner, by unanimous decision, is Harold. Our first double KO in LEGO Wars history brings a shocking result as Kraken crashes out early. With the arena cleaned up, we'll get another bag ready as Ganymede tries to improve on their different debut series against the latest version of Hypershock.
Roboteers, stand by. 3, 2, 1, activate.
Our third fight of the night then. Ganymede and Hypershock, both weapons up to speed immediately. Of course, don't forget all of this is for the right to fight Petunia at the end of the episode. And hopefully from there, a place in the final. Good impact from Ganymede early on, though they've broken part of that Hypershock fork-off, I think. Yes, it was. There's the rest of it. Hypershock trying to get a side-on attack. Oh, and a big impact on the rear from Ganymede. That was a poor driving mistake there by Hypershock, leaving their vulnerable rear exposed and exploited by Ganymede. Good impact there from Ganymede, who have come back with a much new philosophy. They've got no ground game at the front. They're just going full weapon first, maximum engagement, see what happens, and just send it. And Hypershock, speaking of sending it, their weapon has not spanned in quite a while. And I wonder if that initial impact with Ganymede's big vertical wheel has stopped that spinner of Hypershock. I think it might have done it shedding armor as well, all over the place. Hypershock, what can they do now? Their 5th iteration of this Hypershock machine struggle to really live up to the potential that we have seen in it in the past, certainly on BattleBots and other entities as well. But Hypershock here, they're going to have to work hard to beat Ganymede, who looks a much improved machine, doesn't it? Ganymede's weapon is churning away. Hypershock bails for the pit. Can Hypershock push Ganymede down? Ganymede up to speed again and cornering Hypershock, and a big impact on the side pod there, tearing that apart. Great work here from Ganymede, using that weapon very, very effectively. The judges will have taken note. Hypershock struggling really to kind of push Ganymede in the right direction. I think that one wheel, I thought for a second that front wheel was locked there. Seems okay now, but Ganymede again comes in with an impact. Massive side impact, and the weapon of Hypershock has come out of its mounting. And that is a sorry sight for Hypershock, and it's slowed right to a crawl, and Ganymede goes for the weapon, the discarded weapon of Hypershock. Hypershock looks like it's limping here, and Ganymede is absolutely in control of this fight. So far so good. That wheel at the front is looking a bit limp as well. Oh, Hypershock. An entire rebuild of this machine, but it's not looking too great now. Ganymede is all over Hypershock. A massive impact on the rear again. What can Hypershock do to turn the fight around? I don't think there's much, is there? I suppose bail and hope that Ganymede falls down the pit, but from the evidence of this, Ganymede will take some stopping. It looks like a ferocious machine this time, doesn't it? Good impact on the side again of Hypershock. And it's not looking too great for the fluorescent yellow and black machine. We are going to go to a decision by the looks of things, although Hypershock looks pretty dead, to be honest with you. I don't think it's going to be much of a decision for the judges, but I suppose one for the history books. It will go to the judges, but surely there's only one winner. The judges have been kept busy this evening, but I think this is probably going to be an easier decision to make than most. The weapon chain immediately coming off of Hypershock there. Poor driving meant the back armour got ripped off. The front end got chewed to pieces by Ganymede. And just as the fight wore on, you can see more bits and pieces getting ripped away from Hypershock. You know, the side pods were broken into there as well. Just wasn't able to get away from that big weapon of Ganymede. The weapon of Hypershock coming out there. And at the end of the fight, Hypershock was a beaten robot.
And the winner, by unanimous decision, is Ganymede. A strong start for the Magenta Verse as they dispose of Hypershock to move on. Let's see which one of our black and red machines will meet them in the next round as Scarlet Serpent faces Project Shadow.
Roboteers, stand by. 3, 2, 1, activate.
Our final fight then for this, the first episode of LEGO Wars Champions. Project Shadow and Scarlet Serpent. Project Shadow claiming it is the year of Shadow, whatever that means, and Scarlet Serpent bravely going face to face with the horizontal angled spinner. Oh, and there goes part of that front end protection that they have, and I think that's the other half gone as well, which is now stuck underneath Scarlet Serpent, and it does pretty much give Project Shadow free reign really to go for those tracks and try and damage them, and more damage sustained there by Scarlet Serpent. It's not looking ideal for them at the moment there. Tactics, the lower jaw has been ripped away. Oh, and there goes the track of Scarlet Serpent is still attached. It's got a life of its own now. It's still attached, of course, by like the wiring, but that's about it. Oh dear me. Scarlet Serpent absolutely trashed. That part of that amazing design, you know, that's been put together means that, you know, it can all articulate, it can all move about, and well, it's caused all kinds of problems for it here because Project Shadow has come in and has ripped away that track pod. They are better armoured than they were last series, it has to be said. It's not been, the track itself hasn't been split yet, so that's kind of a cool thing, but I don't really see a way back into the fight for them, especially when Project Shadow, who, let's not forget, last year came in as a newcomer, is looking pretty good here. It's, you know, it was a somewhat effective design last year, had issues with its batteries if I remember correctly, and this time around looking a lot better. They said they've worked on weapon engagement over the winter, they've worked on, you know, all kinds of things internally to make it run better, to run smoother, and it is now what they claim to be the ultimate life form in the arena. We'll have to wait and see here, but so far so good. It has to be said they did a great job against Scarlet Serpent, who still in the fight, has to be said. You know, can't rule them out yet with wonderful design that it is. But I think it's going to be a big ask for them to beat Project Shadow at this stage, although Project Shadow is kind of caught on the lip of the pit there, gets away now. Good impact again on the tracks, over goes the track. They're going to be all kinds of discombobulation here, aren't they, Scarlet Serpent, I should say, although they are using that claw to grapple hold of the wheel of Project Shadow. It pins it stuck there. Look, the wheel is spinning, but they've pinned the other one just off the floor, but that's no longer a problem. Scarlet Serpent, what is going on with Scarlet Serpent? Still running, it has to be said, and give them credit, they're going to make it to a full 3 minutes and a judge's decision. Fair play to Scarlet Serpent here. Although Project Shadow hits the
6.
pit button and destroy the pit button. Then Scarlet Serpent will go down the pit, and that's what's happened. Oh dear. What an ending. What an ending. A colour clash of reds and blacks in this fight, but truth be told, there was only one real winner. Project Shadow ripping off the front armour there to cause weakness to Scarlet Serpent, the bottom jaw being ripped away as well, meaning their weapon was inoperable. The track being ripped away turned the fight into a non-contest, but credit to Scarlet Serpent, they kept in the fight for an awfully long time, despite that, and did manage to get a few grapples off, but in the end, there was only one way this fight was going to end, and that was with the pit.
Serpent does its best Red Devil impression with a runaway drive pod as Project Shadow ensures it's an all-spin at top 4. They will face Ganymede shortly, but first it's Orbeez turn to face the Chaotic Harold.
Roboteers, stand by. 3, 2, 1. Activate.
The smart money at the start of the heat would have probably put Kraken to fight Orby Blade again in this competition, but Harold with the upset of the century to beat the runner-up from the last LEGO Wars series. And Orby Blade will know they've got a tough opponent here, but big impact there on the front of Harold. All of this, of course, to fight Petunia. Oh! The weapon of Harold has been torn apart and ripped away. And I think that is basically the end of the fight, because Orby Blade now, surely just have to just capitalise and go for the pit maybe. I think that's what Harold's tried to do, but the drive system on Harold isn't the sturdiest, and immediately has been whacked by Orby Blade, and I think has stopped still here, Harold. Has Harold been immobilised? I think it might have been, or is it lost drive on one side? I think yes, that one side that was impacted by Orby Blade has been stopped and still. The other side was high centre, but back in the action now until that moment there where Orby Blade has stopped both wheels of Harold and has survived a very potentially scary fight. Oh, and there goes the wheel of Harold. Orby Blade spins in delight because they know that Harold has nothing to offer, and they're going to go for the pit button, are they? They are indeed. Counted out. Harold now is the clock, and that will be the end of that fight. A spirited run from Harold, but the pit
6.
is where it ends. Orby Blade through to the Champions Petunia final as it spins in victory and delight. Good for them. Well, they already beat one top 4 robot from the last series of LEGO Wars, but they couldn't repeat the trick here. Harold, Orby Blade's big weapon causing the major damage there. Harold's disc being ripped apart. High-centered there was Harold after one wheel was already damaged. The second wheel damaged there, meaning they couldn't even drive anymore. So every aspect of this robot was broken by Orby Blade, and then eventually pushing Harold into the pit. Very effective stuff from Orby.
A complete dissection of Harold by Orby to continue their destructive form into the final. Let's see if Ganymede can bring it back with a verts, or will Shadow make it an all-horizontal final.
Roboteers, stand by. 3, 2, 1. Activate.
Well, both competitors will have seen how Orby Blade got on in the other semi-final. This for a place in the final to fight them, and of course the winner of that fight will take on Petunia, and by the evidence of this early on, it could be either of these two, because the part of the weapon of Ganymede there has been torn off. You can see it on the right-hand side of the arena now at the top of your screen. And Project Shadow, as I said in the first fight, has come back much improved from the last series. A little bit of damage, yes, to their kind of wheel protection, if you like, on the side there. You can see it, but so far has been a very brutal and effective robot in the competition. Ganymede as well, of course, systematically taking Hypershock apart in the first fight, but in this fight, a much more manoeuvrable and mobile opponent in Project Shadow, and it's proving to be the ultimate life form, as they claim to be so far. But, you know, Ganymede did do well in that first fight. Long way to go yet between these two. Anything can happen in the LEGO Wars arena. We've seen it time and time again. You can be dominating a fight, one small driving error, and then you're down the pit or something like that. But so far, Project Shadow is doing pretty good at taking apart Ganymede. Part of that front end protection has been ripped away. More parts of the disc has been ripped off as well. Slowly being torn apart here by Project Shadow. That angled horizontal spinner hits low on the opponent, and they said they've worked on the engagement. You can tell really the damage that they're causing has been superb so far. Ganymede, what can they do to turn the tide of the fight? They've got the weapon back up to speed, but it isn't balanced anymore, so that's going to be a problem for them later on. Ganymede pushed back against the wall by Project Shadow, who is zipping around quite nicely, and Ganymede is stuck on that far wall. Project Shadow hits the pit button, and it's still hitting the pit button. Nothing, and there it goes. Got there eventually. We love to see it. Ganymede, meanwhile, really isn't traversing the arena with any great enthusiasm, is it? It's kind of stuck against that far wall and is being counted out here. Well, after such a promising fight against Hypershock, they've come up against a very, very good opponent in Project Shadow, who are going to move on to fight Orby Blade here in the Petunia Champions final. Clash of the two big horizontals. I can't wait to see how that's going to pan out. Win for Project Shadow. A bit of a by-the-numbers fight here from Project Shadow, much more manoeuvrable and effective throughout. You saw the disc there splitting apart on Ganymede, which kind of compromised it from the get-go. They did have to take some hits, Project Shadow, from that big weapon though, so they showed good durability there, ripping apart part of the front wedge of Ganymede. In the end, pinning them against that far wall, and Project Shadow conserving a lot of energy for a tough fight later on. But they'll be happy with that one, no doubt about that.
Project Shadow completely guts Ganymede's internals to complete our final. The Sophomore Spinner has had a great run tonight, but its toughest challenge lies ahead as fellow second year bot Orby stands between them and the right to face Petunia.
Roboteers, stand by. 3, 2, 1, activate.
Our two big horizontals then have made it all the way to the final of this. For the right to fight Petunia, Project Shadow and Orby Blade, both impressive thus far. Orby Blade with probably a little bit more pedigree. They finished in the top 4 of LEGO Wars last series. Project Shadow struggled last series a little bit more, but look at this great textbook display here of the Orby Blade tactic of use the tail, spin around, and hit the opponent, and has damaged there the wheel of Project Shadow, and that could be crucial in this fight. They're going to have to work extremely hard here, Project Shadow, to get out of trouble. Project Shadow stuck against the wall. How are they going to respond? They can't really maneuver themselves out of their circumference currently. They're pinned against the wall by the brutally effective Orby Blade, who has been probably the star of the episode. It has to be said, super consistent, and good damage there on the back of Project Shadow. Project Shadow tries to get away there. Orby Blade have stopped and are not moving here. Surely they're just going for the kill, but Project Shadow is wibbling away as much as they can do. Can they transition themselves across the arena? Because at the moment, yes, we are going to go to a simultaneous knockout between the two. They're both immobilised on the floor. Project Shadow can't get out of his circumference. Orby Blade is dead on arrival by the looks of it. And we're going to go to a second decision for this in this episode. Shocking stuff. Well, let's look at the highlights from that battle. Orby Blade transitioned across the arena to go blow to blow with Project Shadow. They went weapon to weapon once. Orby Blade did the little sweep technique and knocked the wheel of Project Shadow, causing it to kind of get stuck in its own circumference. And then Orby Blade just kind of died. Judges, can you help me out with this one? I'm struggling, to be honest with you.
And the winner, by unanimous decision, is Orby Blade. With our second double KO of the night, it's Orby who will face Petunia in our Bounty Hunter bout. Both of these machines have finished third in the main series, and there's extra pride on the line for Petunia to avenge their loss to Orby from last year's International. So let's find out who will book the first spot in the LEGO Wars Champions final.
Roboteers, stand by. 3, 2, 1, activate.
So this is it then, what we've all been working towards. The right to fight Petunia. Orby Blade got it just about over Project Shadow, but now is the real test. The acid test against our former international champions Petunia, the RoboNode special winner, and Petunia with their new Keith setup, using the grab and lift technique to try and beat Orby Blade, who has stopped again on the arena floor. That won't be too nice for them, but they've pinned Petunia back over the arena gap there, the kind of cutout at the side of the arena. Petunia does get away. They've improved on the Keith setup since the All-Stars. They've now got a much more robust lower jaw to be better armoured to defend against attacks like those horizontal swipes that Orby Blade will want to deliver to them. Petunia and Orby Blade very low to the ground, getting in underneath Petunia more often than the other way round, than Petunia getting in underneath Orby Blade. And Orby Blade here up to speed with the weapon. They're going to try and contact the wheel of Petunia like that, and that is exactly what they did to Project Shadow. They used the tail spinner of Orby Blade to cause massive damage to their opponent. And what can Petunia do now? On one wheel, they're going to really struggle to capitalise on this fight. Petunia, our champion of the episode, I think they're in real trouble here. Orby Blade looking like they could go through to the series final, along with our 4 series champions, of course. Tantrum, Aggro Wobber, Waddle Dee, and of course Panic Attack, our first series champion. Orby Blade here so far in complete control of this fight. They are absolutely cruising to victory, pinning Petunia in the corner, not giving them any opportunities to kind of mount a recovery in this fight. And so far, a very dominant display from the horizontal spinner from Korea, beating the Dutch clutch that is Petunia. No, not lost in customs like Hold My Beer was for Scout Showdown 2, 3, one of them. But Orby Blade so far making Petunia wish it was lost in customs, because they are absolutely... Well, what can they do? Their wedge is off the floor. They can't really do anything here. Petunia pinned in the corner by Orby Blade. The weapon spins up once again. Can they deliver a big impact to the back of Petunia? There's not much really that they can do here, Petunia, because they haven't got the grip, they haven't got the manoeuvrability that they need to dictate the pace of the fight, and they can't do anything now because the wheel of Petunia has gone, and I think it's going to... Well, the countdown timer in the bottom right is white, which means I think it's going to go to the judge's decision just about.
6.
But I think it's going to be an easy decision for the judges to make. Orby Blade dominance. What a fight. Well, Orby Blade earned the right to fight Petunia, and fight them they did, and I think they pretty much dominated the fight. Petunia, not one time did they get in underneath the very, very low rear end of Orby Blade. Orby Blade doing its patented bait and switch, the spin around, causing enormous damage to Petunia. The wheel ripped away, and from then on in it was one-way traffic. And just to add insult to injury, they ripped the other wheel off too.
And the winner, by unanimous decision, is Orby Blade. And that superb display from Orby sends Petunia packing as they book their berth in the final. It's been an explosive start to LEGO Wars Champions as chunks of battered LEGO were strewn across the arena, and despite some reliability concerns, it would be Orby Blade who continued their destructive streak to move on. That's all from us tonight, but join us next time as another batch of machines will run the gauntlet to face a champion. For now though, I've been your host David of Smeg, and we'll see you in the next one.